Forget clashing swords and armored knights. The Children's Crusade, a mysterious movement in 1212, saw thousands of children set on a holy pilgrimage to Jerusalem. Their story, shrouded in legend and tinged with tragedy, remains an enigma that continues to baffle historians and ignite curiosity. At first, this crusade was not an official crusade sanctioned by the Catholic Church, but instead was a popular movement of European children who believed they could retake the Holy Land through divine intervention. The Children's Crusade took place in the year 1212, and its participants were primarily young people between the ages of 6 and 18. Was it a divine spark of inspiration or a tragic manipulation? The Children's Crusade was not a single event, but rather two separate movements that occurred throughout Europe at roughly the same time. One movement began in France, where a young boy named Stephen of Cloyes claimed to have received a message from Jesus Christ, telling him to gather an army of children to retake Jerusalem. Stephen of Cloyes was a 12-year-old shepherd boy who appears to have been a gifted public speaker. He believed that God had called upon him to lead a crusade to the Holy Land, and he began preaching to others in his village about his mission. The second movement began in Germany. Another young boy, Nicholas of Cologne, also claimed to have received a divine message. Nicholas believed that he had received a vision from Jesus Christ, urging him to lead a crusade to the Holy Land to retake Jerusalem from the Muslims. Like Stephen, Nicholas believed that God would provide for the needs of the Crusaders during their journey and that they would not have to fight in any battles. What happens next? You might be wondering, right? Many questions arise here, and I am sure you also have so many. Now let's explore further in great detail. In France, Stephen's message quickly spread, and he gained a large following of both adults and children, perhaps 30,000 strong. He believed that children were pure and innocent, and their faith would help them overcome the obstacles on their journey to Jerusalem. He preached that God would provide them with food, water, and other necessities during their journey. However, the Children's Crusade was doomed from the start. The young crusaders were ill-prepared for the arduous journey to the Holy Land, and many of them died from hunger, thirst, and exposure before even reaching their destination. The children who joined Stephen's crusade numbered in the thousands, and they set out from France towards the Mediterranean. Unfortunately, the children soon encountered many hardships along the way, and disappointment overcame the group. The group eventually disbanded, and the crusade was over. Nicholas' followers eventually reached the Mediterranean. They believed that the sea would part for them, and they would be able to walk across it to reach the Holy Land. However, the sea did not part, and Nicholas quickly lost the confidence of his followers. Many children decided to stay in the town of Genoa to start a new life. But what about the ones that sailed and traveled with? Unfortunately, the fate of the children who paid for ships to transport them to the Holy Land during the Children's Crusade is not entirely clear. According to historical records, a group of merchants did offer to take the children to the Holy Land by ship, but they were sold into slavery in North Africa. It is believed that many of the children were sold into the slave markets of Tunisia and Morocco. Some of the children were bought by Muslim rulers and were converted to Islam. Others were sold to wealthy families, where they were forced to work as servants or laborers. It is important to note that the details of the Children's Crusade are largely based on legend and folklore, and the exact number of children who participated and their fates are not well documented. However, it is clear that the children who paid for ships to transport them to the Holy Land were subjected to horrific treatment and exploitation, and their journey ended in tragedy. Here's what history says about the Children's Crusade was a disaster, and its impact was felt throughout Europe. The movement had inspired thousands of children to leave their homes and families to embark on a dangerous journey that ended in tragedy. The Catholic Church was criticized for not doing more to stop the Children's Crusade, and many people began to question the Church's authority. The Children's Crusade remains a cautionary tale about the dangers of blind faith and the manipulation of children. The leaders of the movement exploited the naivety and innocence of the children, leading them to believe that their faith alone would lead them to victory. This has led to increased awareness of the vulnerability of children and the importance of protecting them from exploitation and abuse.